ladies and gentlemen, how are we getting on? So, Thursday once again, and Bethesda have a lot more information and news for us regarding Fallout 76, and we're going to do this a little out of order today, because as you may have noticed from the title, there's some very interesting changes coming, something that's very, very curious. So, let's jump in and take a look, shall we? So, jumping straight onto what is the second point, but the first one I want to talk about, an update on survival mode. So, the blog post that I've got here says Fallout 76 is built to constantly evolve, which is something we love as developers and players. The philosophy also applies to survival mode beta, which we know was directed towards those of you who prefer a more challenging way to experience Appalachia. Since it launched several months ago, we've received wonderful feedback that helped make the mode even stronger. Now, with Nuclear Winter offering its own unique competitive flavour and a biggest update yet on the horizon, we have decided to disable survival mode on October the 1st. We're currently placing our focus on Wastelanders, but after it launches, we'll revisit your feedback and make additional changes to the game to improve PvP in the core Fallout 76 experience in fun new ways. What does that mean for Adventure Mode or Nuclear Winter? Everything you know and love about those modes will not be affected by this adjustment. We appreciate all the thoughts you send our way and look forward to your continued support and feedback. So, no more survival mode as of the 1st of October. Big change. The big question obviously here is why, and they haven't really given us that much in the way of detail here, but I think there's a bit we can probably infer from this. So, I suspect, and I'd imagine you guys probably agree with me on this, the survival mode is probably the least played of the three modes. And most of us obviously come from the PvE background, particularly with the Fallout series, obviously. This is the first time it's been anything other than PvE. So, adding in this heavily PvP mode is probably not the most popular with the majority of players. So my guess for a big part of this is it's the least played mode, and one of the other angles to that, I suppose, is that a portion of Bethesda that are actually working on Fallout 76 is probably around about a quarter of Bethesda Game Studios, which as a group themselves are not the largest development company around. AAA game maker they might be, but in terms of the staffing numbers, they're relatively small. So when you take that down to what is probably about a quarter of their workforce working on 76, a game mode that is not getting that much attention, getting that much play, is probably not going to be a long-term priority. It's also probably healthy for the game. You know, as they say, they want it to evolve and develop, and the whole idea from day one has been to develop the game over time in conjunction with the way players want to play. So if players don't want to play survival mode or aren't playing survival mode, it will be certainly deprioritized. So I think that's probably got a lot to do with it. They've mentioned that Wastelanders being just around the corner is their primary focus, and I think if survival mode, in their opinion, needs a major overhaul to be brought back to life, then with Wastelanders right in front of them, it's no wonder they're focusing on that. As I've said before, Wastelanders has got a huge potential to reinvigorate the game, hopefully bring back players who played early on and didn't like what they found, particularly with the lack of NPCs, and hopefully interest players who might have played the game but chose not to because no NPCs and so on and so forth. With the massive changes coming with Wastelanders, and particularly the harking back to Fallout 3 with the dialogue system, things like that, there's a good chance that it'll bring people back, and for those of us who've been playing for a long time, I don't know about you, but I know I'm very, very ready for the game to have a major refresh. You know, the game's coming up on and being out for a year, we've been playing it pretty consistently right the way through, continually, and yeah, a change is certainly welcome, I think, at this stage. So their focus being on Wastelanders is not particularly difficult to understand, I don't think. The other concern is what does it mean on the whole for Fallout 76? So it's kind of hard to gauge player numbers. When you look at Adventure Mode, obviously that's going to be the main thing, but it's kind of applies to Survival Mode as well. But you know, you've got individual worlds with 24 or so people in them at most. And the dynamic way the server system works, they spin up more worlds when more players are on, and as number of players drop off, you know, the evening comes in, that sort of thing, they close down more and move everybody into less worlds. So it makes it very, very difficult to gauge how busy the game is. But it sounds like it's the case that they're not having many servers running and not many busy ones and so on for Wastelanders. So if it's not getting enjoyed, it's not really in their interests or ours, probably, to to put too much time and effort into that, at least not this current point in time. So it's probably a right decision and a good thing, and I don't think the majority of players will miss survival mode. I mean, for myself, I've not touched it at all. I've never even loaded into a survival mode game because it just doesn't interest me. PvP and adventure mode does my head in, to be honest. So, survival mode rather has never held my attention at all. With adventure mode Nuclear Winter, it sounds like Nuclear Winter is getting more attention. Obviously, they've just brought the new map out. It's really good fun. Sounds like it's getting more consistent player numbers, which is interesting and alarming at the same time, because full lobbies are hard to come by sometimes in Nuclear Winter. So if that's better than Wastelanders, then Wastelanders is probably not generating much traffic at all. But on the adventure mode side of things, this means in all likelihood, those PvP players are going to... Some will go over to Nuclear Winter, but some will also start reappearing in adventure mode. So to suggest that everything you know and love about adventure mode won't change, I think is probably not entirely accurate. Back before survival mode came out, you had not major issues with griefing, but you did find players who were a bit of a pain in the neck on occasion, because they wanted to focus on PvP, especially when other people didn't, and they'd pop up and just cause hassle. Now they've lost survival mode that they can go and do that in, they're going to reappear in adventure mode, or at least some of them will. So it's possible that a lot of them are playing Nuclear Winter instead, but, you know, it's a concern of mine that. I think you're going to find, anytime you're going for public workshops, you're going to find you're getting attacked more often as of 1st of October. That would be my guess as to what the impact's going to be. On the other hand, they said here that they're planning on developing and improving on the PvP version that exists in adventure mode at the moment. So what that means, what that's going to imply, it could be anything at this stage. Maybe you guys will have some suggestions on what sort of feedbacks they've been receiving on that, so who knows. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but it probably won't be for the rest of 2019, judging by the tone of this. Because Wastelanders is due November. I'm still sticking with my guess of on the anniversary of the game's launch, so probably 14th. They'll want some time, obviously, to get that going and get the ball rolling, and then there'll be Christmas, New Year, and then they'll start looking at new things in early 2020, I think. It's my guess. Yeah, this is a big, unexpected development. And as I say, based on the player number side of things, is a little bit alarming. It does also imply heavily that adventure mode is the core gameplay experience, it always has been, and that's where most players are focusing their time and energy. And so they're focusing on that. It's also going to be the most interesting area regarding Wastelanders when that appears. It's obviously going to be more adventure mode centric than anything else. So they're obviously putting all their time and effort into that particular update, which I think most of us are generally in favour of. But yeah, I really hope Wastelanders can pull off what it's aiming to achieve, and that they can sort out things like the server stability issues they've had lately, stuff like that. They've just nailed the power armor bug that has been a big bugbear for a lot of people in the last couple of days. And if you guys saw that, I put a little post up. If you're subscribed and have got the bell notification clicked, you should have seen my little post on the community page about that. Specifically that as you hop out of power armor, you can find your controls shutting down, and you can basically shoot something right in front of you but do nothing else. Couldn't turn, couldn't do anything else without restarting the game. So that change, that issue has been fixed, which is good, but they need to keep these fixes coming fast between now and November, because if Wastelanders is to be successful, they need to get it right. And if it isn't, then the potential negative impact of that is huge as well. That would be really bad for the game. So it's probably a good thing with that in mind that they're putting so much emphasis on Wastelanders. I think that's the right call. But a little unfortunate and a little alarming, the implications of it from the other side as regards closing down survival mode. But we'll have to wait and see what happens after the 1st of October as to exactly what impact this has. But yeah, a big, startling piece of news, I think, there. We'll have to see what happens. I'm definitely interested to hear what your guys' thoughts on that, what your take is on this, see what your experiences with survival mode have been, what your interpretation of it. Are you guys playing it? Have you not been playing it? What's your interpretation on this piece of news? So do let me know down in the comments. But yeah, a big, surprising piece of news there. So, jumping back over to the other points in here, Coming soon, increased public event frequency. So in the last patch, patch 13, we had an overhaul to the public event system, which has been, I think, generally quite well received. My personal first impressions have been very positive. Occasionally, from the video recording standpoint, having the notifications flash up is mildly annoying, so being able to disable that would be a nice little feature. But, as a general rule of thumb, outside of that sort of personal issue of mine, is it's a really good feature, and the additions to the map with more details and more visible events is definitely a good thing as well. And nobody's going to complain about free fast travel, I'm sure. However, they're bringing a few new changes, specifically to the cooldown timer on the public events. So, let's have a look at what they've got to say. Since public event improvements came to the game in patch 13, we've been reading your thoughts about the new cooldown that many of them share from the start of one event to the beginning of the next. The shared timer was added to help increase your chances of success by focusing players on the currently active event and to aid with server performance. Always welcome, definitely a good thing. While we can't eliminate the cooldown entirely, we agree that our initial implementation was too conservative and that it can make the wait between public events feel too long, especially if the previous event ended early due to failure. With patch 14, we are going to significantly reduce the cooldown so that you can join public events more often. Events vary in terms of length and difficulty, so we can't predict exactly how long the timer will be in all cases, but you should notice public events popping up at least twice as quickly after patch 14. We're also planning more extensive improvements for public events with our second phase of changes coming further down the road. My guess for that will be patch 15, judging by the tone of that comment. Aside from the changes to rewards and loot that we've mentioned previously, we're also looking to include some additional adjustments for this cooldown phase, in phase 2, and we'll have more details to share as that approaches. Okay, so basically those updates are going to be appearing on the screen a lot more frequently even after the next patch, which means public events will be much more easy to get into more frequently. As it stands, a lot of the events are the fastest way to grind for legendary gear at the moment. Certainly better than the alternatives anyway, particularly in light of some of the previous good spots to farm for them have been apparently nerfed in my experience, so public events have become that much more important, and I suppose the two are probably related and not really that surprising. But if you can get into these events more quickly, that's certainly be a good thing. The implication that people want to be able to do that more quickly is good. Means that people are engaging with the new public events, which is cool. Not sure if I agree with the assessment that it needs to be faster, but I think I'll need more time to actually get to grips with that before I can form a solid opinion on that, I think. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, so events going to be coming a bit more quickly. It should make farming those legendaries a lot more easy anyway, which is always cool. Because I know most people, myself included, probably not the biggest fans of grinding for things, and anything that speeds that along, makes it come a bit quicker is probably welcome. So jumping over to that previous post that they've linked here, talking about the reward side of things, just to go back over that quickly, they've not actually given us a great deal of details on what they're going to be doing with that and how they're going to be changing the rewards, but taking a look back at this post here, we have got that the performance-based reward system that they're going to be working on and bringing in future, basically so that those who don't engage with the event and just sort of pass through and pick it up can get rewards anyway at the moment. Shouldn't be the case in future. You'll have to actually engage with the event and contribute in order to get rewards with this new system, so that's one thing that's coming in. And they're adjusting the legendary drop, or legendary loot drop, so that even if you haven't necessarily hit the legendary enemy and scored enough damage on them to normally get the drop, you should be able to take advantage of it anyway, provided you've contributed to the rest of the event, which is cool. But again, they haven't shared a great deal more details yet, but that's a little reminder as to what the changes to the reward system are likely to be. So, onward to Meat Week. Those who've been paying attention, you'll know that in the 6 weeks or so running up towards Wastelanders, which I personally think is more likely to be around about 8, but anyway, I think they'll probably have about a 2-week period between the end of this run of events and when they actually launch Wastelanders, just to get things set up and get the change happening and so on and so forth, but slight side point there. In the run-up to that, they are doing a series of community challenges wherein you achieve certain milestones, or we as a group of players achieve certain milestones and get certain events and rewards coming back for it. So the big thing is cleaning. It's called Cleaning Appalachia. You might have seen the iconing on the main menu for it. The gist of it being take out Scorch Beasts, get rewards, and clean up Appalachia ahead of Wastelanders, which begs an interesting question. Namely that, does that mean that the Scorch Beasts are going to be no longer present once Wastelanders drops? Which doesn't make a right lot of sense to me, because I can't imagine they'll remove the existing questline, the existing main story, ahead of Wastelanders, and then just completely swap the whole thing out. That doesn't make sense. It seems more likely that Wastelanders will follow on from that, so you'll play through the existing storyline and then begin the Wastelanders storyline after. So if you start a brand new character or you're a brand new player, you work your way through it all. But at the same time then, why are we clearing out Scorch Beasts? Maybe there'll be some kind of variation there you'll have to work through, and then you'll activate the Wastelanders storyline, and that will change your game experience. I don't know. Or maybe Scorch Beasts will just be fewer of them around, but who knows? Maybe they'll just remove most of the Fisher sites, but not all. It's, an interesting question there. We'll have to see what happens when November rolls around. But we've apparently been making good progress on this, which is, in contrast to the previous observations about survival mode, speaks quite volumes about how populated adventure mode is, I think, which is a good sign, because it's been, just over a week now since the Cleaning Appalachia series of events started, and so far we've killed well over 400,000 Scorch Beasts, which is a good sign. These things take time, and obviously they're some of the toughest enemies in the game. Once you've got the levels, you can take them on fine, but still. We're hitting these milestones quite easily, apparently, which is a good indicator of how much people are engaging with the game, which is a good thing to see. So we've blown past the 400,000 mark. So the initial unlock was for Meat Week, or Meat Weekend specifically. It was at the 400,000 mark. So that will be coming back on, where are we? It's here somewhere, September 26th. So that's not this weekend, the weekend after. And then from there, if we hit the 500k mark, which seems entirely likely based on this, then, excuse me, my hair is tickling my face like crazy today. Then if we get that 500,000 mark, then the full Meat Week experience will be returning, so the full seasonal event will be popping up from 26th and running through to October 3rd instead, which would be very, very cool. So, clearly, despite some of the iffy feedback around Meat Week, it sounds like it obviously did get well engaged with, so looks like hopefully at the end of the month we'll be seeing that particular seasonal event coming back. I'm certainly happy to see that, in the sense that more seasonal events are definitely a good thing. The wait between Fastnacht and Meat Week was, 4 months, something like that? It was a long time anyway. So, more often than that is definitely a good thing. It's something they should be doing on a more frequent basis, I think, so that's good. So looking forward to seeing that. I know I missed out on some of the rewards, so looking forward to get a second crack at those. So there are 2 other unlocks coming as a result of hitting the milestones we've already hit, that being a little free player icon that you can pick up in the Atomic Shop, and a curly bun hairstyle, which I'm assuming is Princess Leia. Possibly a little more Viking, but we'll have to see, but it sounds like that. And that will be appearing on September 24th and running for just shy of a month. So if you have a look into the details of the Cleaning Appalachia, Project Clean Appalachia, or what it was called, then the other things that are coming up are sales for the Purveyor, the legendary vendor. The initial unlock for that, I believe, is a weekend sale of 25%. That's been done a couple of times before. But if we hit the milestones, the subsequent milestones for that one, then it goes up to a 50% off sale, which would be very, very cool. So that's something else to look out for. Do take a look at that in more detail if you get the chance. Yeah, all in all, it's a very mixed bit of information coming with this particular blog post. I don't entirely know what to make. So, on the one hand, survival modes being removed, it says alarming things about player populations, amongst other things. But it also implies a heavy focus on Wastelanders, which is a good thing. And then you flip that around to have a look at the Cleaning Appalachia thing. We're going through Scorch Beasts like hot knife through butter. So that implies good things about the player populations. Or at least, at the very least anyway, engagement with the game. So it's kind of a swings and roundabouts thing. I think my final take for the moment at least is going to be that people just aren't playing PvP and they are playing adventure mode. So they're focusing on what people are interested in rather than what they're not, which is probably the right call. But as I say, I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about this. Please do let me know your thoughts and stuff back down in the comments below. Yeah, so beyond this, we've got a brand new video coming up over the weekend. It's been a little while since I've done a build with one thing and another, and difficulties on my end in terms of getting going on this, but I've got a very, very cool build that I've now finished, and I'm putting that video together over the next couple of days, so do watch this space for that one. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. Do drop by and catch the live streams as and when you can as well. Should be doing one of those later on tonight. I think we're going to play Wolfenstein tonight, so I'm going to try and get that wrapped up fairly soon, and then look forward to the new games coming out at the end of the year, as well as Wastelanders, obviously, as well, going forward. So should be good fun. It's a fun game, so looking forward to a bit of that. Definitely want to get that finished. And yeah, beyond that, we'll have to see what other cool things we've got coming as well. For now, thank you very much for watching, folks. Do hope you found this useful and informative. If you did, please do hit those buttons for me. It's very, very much appreciated. Social media links down in the description as well if you want to keep up to date with me on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. And as always, if you're really enjoying the content, then please do consider becoming a channel member as well via the join button below. The support is hugely, hugely appreciated, very much appreciated. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.